Hello and welcome to the Who the Fuck is in the Mirror podcast. I'm Angela Spooner, your host, emotional intelligence guide, trauma-informed coach, yoga instructor, confident, badass single mom of 3 amazing children, and founder of Unabashedly You. This podcast is all about using books, analogies, and metaphors to dive deep into who you really are to yourselves, not just as parents or some fictional version others made you out to be, right? But who the fuck you are. I want you to find your confidently badass, secure version of you that you lost along the way, or maybe you never even had in the first place. Because you were busy with everyone and everything else. Does that sound about right? So how about we get into the science of why we are a bunch of fucked up individuals who look in the mirror and don't even recognize the person that's staring back. Join me in the best journey you'll ever experience. Why, you may ask? Because it is the journey to transform your self-doubt, insecurity, and overall dysfunctional brain into self-aware, badass confidence and understanding. I hope you're as excited as I am because I cannot wait to get into this. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Who the Fuck is in the Mirror. We have Joshua here, and we are doing our fiction intermission part 3, which, as we all know, is when I take a break from reading more and more content, writing it down, explaining all of it. It's really for me, guys, because I know you could just binge listen to me. You're welcome. But I like to take those breaks because my mental stability depends on it. So we are going to actually be talking about my last 2 episodes because Joshua, I had to break this chapter, Losing Your Body, Losing Yourself. I had to break it up into 2 podcasts, which were 30 and 45 minutes long. So,
man, before the show, Angela was just giving, and I'm like, let's jump right into it because I want to hear it for the first time with y'all. So really, really kind of grabbed me. So you were talking about the Mohawk. I don't know if that's the right place to start, but let's just dive into it.
So the Mohawk is basically what Cole calls your default state network. So this is where you have the insula, the parietal lobes, and the anterior cingulate. You guys don't have to remember that, obviously. But these are basically the areas of the brain that are connected and process your feelings and sensations from all parts of your body. So they all have their different functions, but the main idea is that they all take part in overall consciousness and our sense of self. So when they did this study, right? And it was a neuroimaging study. And what they said was that individuals with histories of chronic trauma, the same regions show sharply decreased activity, making it difficult to register internal states and assessing the personal relevance of incoming information.
That's so me. Really? I didn't know that. That's a real breakthrough for me. I have a hard time dancing. I will die of an injury because I won't report it, if that makes sense. I register pain, but not very well.
Right. And it's definitely all encompassed, and I never really understood it because you're talking about, so we have all the different structures, right? You have your amygdala, your hippocampus, you have all these other structures, which, by the way, the Mohawk runs right next to these structures.
Of course. Right.
Of course they do, right?
Yep.
So we're talking about you're having balance problems, coordination problems, because you're not able to sense these things. That also makes more sense that you're not able to control your behaviors.
True.
So
it's like a car with no driver.
Right.
Yep.
exactly. So last week I actually was talking about an instance where I experienced somebody basically degrading me and talking about how I think I know everything because I'm a coach.
Mhm.
And it was all because her children were rude to me. And I was telling, like, I looked at her to see what she would say. She was like, I love how they express themselves. And I'm like, no, that's like disrespectful. And I was like, sometimes, you just sit there and you're like, oh, fuck. Like, is this thing on? Hello, testing, testing, one, two, three, So me being me, I'm like, okay, well, if you're not going to say something to
Yep.
them, I'm
Yep.
like, I think you need to understand that you shouldn't be talking to people that way, not
Yep.
just because I'm an adult, but as an
Yep.
individual. You
Yep.
don't degrade
Yep.
people like that. So she took that as I'm going to degrade you, talk about your business, talk about how you're nothing, talk about your kids, like just went off on me, right? And for days, I lost all sense of self.
The
Like
block.
I
Yep.
just sat there and I was like numb. I had this foggy brain and I was like, what's going on? Like I tried to meditate, I tried to do yoga. So, in that instance, through that process, I should rather say, I had to really think about like, what is going on? Is
Yeah.
it something where I'm upset with this lady or is
Mhm.
it something deeper? And that's when I realized it was because my business, I wasn't even doing my business the way that it's supposed to do, right? Because when we know we're supposed to be doing something the way we're supposed to be doing it, somebody can say something to you and you're like, cool, I'm
Yep.
glad you
So
did
true.
that. Cool story, bro. Moving on,
Yeah. Yes.
and I was like that, at the beginning, but lately I'm like, ooh, like anything that somebody says, I'm like, oh my gosh, is that is that not right? Am I not doing this right? Totally questioning everything. And then I was like, wait, that's not even what I'm supposed to be doing. I'm supposed to be helping people at low prices, not high prices. I'm supposed to be giving them all this knowledge and giving them all the tools to be able to work on themselves inside and out and be able to move through these things. And I was like, well, I took that as thanks, lady,
There you go.
because we can take any situation how we want to. And I took that as my aha moment of I need to get back to my sense of self. And
That
the
was so mature. So those of y'all who are watching, I don't care if you've been coaching for like 6 months or if you've been coaching for 6 years or you've never coached at all. The ability to take feedback is the most inspiring piece of any human, and it never changes. I don't care the most professional. Mahatma Gandhi, I am quite certain, got feedback late in life that he either chose to internalize and work on. And I don't mean that in a bad way, you internalize it and use that energy, or he chose to get resentful and hurtful, and it will definitely create a blind spot. So you chose to internalize it and use it.
Yeah, and I even apologized to the lady and everybody was like, "What the
You.
fuck? What? Like why are you apologizing to her? She went off on you." And I was like, "Right, but at the same time, that was my perception of her children and where I don't think this is right or this is, I don't what I think is that everybody has their own sense of self.
Yep.
Everybody has their own journey. And if I'm there to help people, me sitting there and telling her kids what to do is basically her losing that control. And if she was that triggered by me telling her kids something, then she's obviously got her own stuff going on,
I'm
and
going to
by
use a
me
quick.
giving her that response, it's literally pushing her further from wanting to get help, right?
So right on. So for I'm very emotional. I'm more like what most people would do women than a man, right? I grew up with three sisters and a mom. My dad was very absent, so it was a female household until my brother was came along and I was 15. So that was a long time. So even though I was the oldest, I'm very feminine. So this next little trick or tool really helped me, and I've watched it help a lot of women with feedback, because feedback, especially woman to woman, can be very touchy thing, or even me, right? I learned a long time ago, do not get involved in my sister's fights. The
Right.
minute I get involved, right, I'm like a one-armed man with their emotions. I'm not able to process at the speed. And it's just the way it is, guys. If you don't like it, it's just true. Maybe some of you can keep up. It's just highly unlikely. It starts at age 3 and moves on, right? So I learned not to get involved in that. But this tool really helped me. It what they call a ticket for that train. So imagine that a train's leaving my hometown, Grand Junction, at 3 o'clock tomorrow afternoon, and I have a ticket to get on that train. Here I am in Tombstone, Arizona, and no way to get there. How do I feel? I feel anxious and I feel stressed.
Right.
3 o'clock tomorrow is coming on us, and I haven't a way to get there yet. So even if I got in a pretty fast car or jumped on a plane, like it seems unlikely I'm going to make it by 3 o'clock. That's all those feelings, all those emotions. That's because I have a ticket for that train, right? Imagine that same train is leaving the next day and I don't have a ticket for it, right? So Thursday comes along. What do I feel? Nothing. When someone gives you feedback and you have a strong emotion, you have a ticket for that train somewhere. You chose to look at that ticket and go, she might be way off base. Maybe she's reacting, overreacting. Maybe her trauma is triggering her, but I'm also feeling emotions. Why? If I am, this has nothing to do with her. That just means a bomb went off near me and my emotions responded. And so your maturity to dig into that was so wise. So if you're fighting with your sister or your mom, or I use women just because it's more common. Men actually, I very often can get into this too. But the idea is that if I'm feeling a strong emotion, there was something in that feedback. I have a ticket there somewhere.
Right.
Because you're right. If you don't have a ticket, you're like, yeah, cool story, bro. I'm happy with my business. I love it. But you used it and changed your business. So what direction are you going now?
So now it's a membership. It's just a paying membership. Like I know people are like, oh, you should definitely do packages later on. I'm like, no, because that's still not who I am genuinely. And I remember the first thing that inspired me was my yoga
Instructor?
institute. Yeah. Yeah. The yoga institute that
Okay.
I from.
Oh
Okay.
yeah. Okay. Okay.
They're from, so mine is from India. So
Oh,
everything was online. So yeah, it was very interesting trying to, because they're like yelling at you, but with the Indian accent. And you're just like, it's so funny. It's so funny. And it's not to say anything like racist. I love it. I love it because
good
it gives,
enough.
I love it because it's like they're lecturing me, but I can take it. I'm all, yeah, totally. And their packages are so cheap. Like I think I got my yoga training 200 for like $100. And they had like all these sales going, but still, like the very first thing that they open up with in their intro is people always ask us why we charge so little. And they were like, because we believe in what we're selling.
Yeah.
When you believe in what you're selling and why you're selling it,
Yeah.
and that was for me, I was like, I have to look back and see why I'm doing this
Yeah.
because it gets very frustrating because, you're like, I really want to do this, but I also need to pay bills. I have to constantly remind myself that things happen the way that they should as long as you accept.
Yep.
And everything has been falling into place, meeting people, learning things,
Yeah.
And one of my biggest problems is I've been trying to get live on Google for like 2 months, right? And the problem is that all I can have on there right now, because I can't touch anything on my homepage on my app until they approve it or deny it.
No.
So I can't even modify it. So all you see when you open my app is my free content. You
Mhm.
can't see my membership. And I was like,
That's Google's whole model too. They want free content. Yeah.
right, right. And it's so frustrating because I didn't understand why people were like, oh, that's a cute app. And then I looked and I was like, oh, it's because all they see is my 5-step free content. And they're like, cute app, dude. And I'm like, no, if you could see
Gonna get bigger. Yeah. 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 Yeah.
the stuff in there, it is a lot more than just that, right? But they can't see it, obviously. So it's like just so I was like, okay, got to be resourceful in that end. So now I'm going to work on my actual website that I built from Wix. I started building it and then I just focused on my app and I was like, okay, now it's time to work on the website because I can put everything on the website with the link for the membership, everything. And then that way people can see like, this is all the stuff I have. I can have my podcast stuff on there. I can have all the links to my social media. Like I can have everything on there. And I'm like, we always have to be resourceful, but you can't grow and learn and expand your mind if you're sitting there and you're getting triggered by everything that everybody
Yeah.
says
Yep.
and you're not able to learn from it. You're like so many people were like, I wouldn't apologize to her. You should have just ignored it. Just ignore it, girl. And it's like, no, ignoring situations for me is the opposite of what I want to.
If you hadn't had a ticket for that train, you would have ignored her. Or, I mean, you just energetically would have been like, cool, I'm sorry you're having a bad day, right? So maybe that's what they wanted from you, but you knew you were hot. And that was your ticket for that train. You're like, nope, there's something here for me. That's so mature. I wondered if we could ask your viewers, and this is podcast, but we talked before the show about some sort of a way to help y'all directly, like some sort of a call in, or I don't know what that looks like, but I would love to know what your viewers think about that. Again, Angela and I are just spitting and trying to figure out ways to help people more directly. I have no idea what that looks like. Maybe like you can call in and tell us what's going on with. I have people message me almost daily. I dealt with a near suicidal situation this last week. And so that does not usually come with a charge. If somebody reaches out and goes, I know you coach and I feel like I might end it, and this is why, then we work. I'm not going to say, oh, I called the suicide hotline and they hung up on me, or they put me on hold, or they wanted to see my credit card, right? It doesn't work that way. So I guess that's my idea is if you're struggling and you want to walk through something, how would that work for you? If you're one of Angela's viewers and you would like support, what would that look like for you?
Yes, definitely. I want to hear more from you guys. You can go onto my TikTok, which I'm under there as Audacious Queen, but I'm also Angela Spooner. You can go on my Instagram, which is you.unabashedly. You can go on these platforms. You can go to my Facebook, which is Angela Spooner, but you can also go onto the business page, which is Unabashedly You. So there's all these different platforms and areas that you are able to communicate, or you can just send me a comment on on Podbean, which don't forget to follow, like, anything. Okay. Hello, everyone. We have some exciting news for you. We, as in me, myself, and I am switching up my app. So all my 6-week challenge content and more are going to be easily accessible to you in my Confident Queen membership at $49. If you're listening to this podcast, you already fucking know why. That's all I have to say. So hit me up, let me know, because this is a pretty golden opportunity. You get your Confidence in 7 method, Blast Fat guide, the 6-week videos for the crash course, but you'll also be getting prompts. You'll still be getting live coaching sessions, live yoga sessions, mindfulness. We are going to make this so much fun. We're even going to have like a game, like mindfulness games. Like we have a meditation, Jeopardy, and it's all going to be easily accessible on our Zoom sessions. It's going to be so much fun. I cannot wait to get started on this. It starts July 1st. So let me know. Oh, also I have a 7-day free trial. Thanks. Have a good day. We need more info so that we know how to help. I can't help you. I tell my kids all the time, I can't help you unless you use your words.
Yeah.
Because we can't read your mind. We can't read anybody's mind. And that's the biggest problem, is that people get in this sense of, you need to know what I'm thinking. And it's like, no,
Way.
there's no way, with all the people, in billions and billions of people in the world, and you want me to know your specific brain. There's no way to know that until we know your patterns, we know your past, we know the issues that you have, the issues that you think you don't have, but really do have. Those different things, we can never actually help you in the way that you specifically need.
And here's what
Right?
happens, especially, well, it doesn't matter, both sides of the fence. Here's what happens if your spouse or partner or friend is one of those people that wants you to read their mind. And more of us are than we want to admit, right? Because we may say, oh, no, I don't. But when we show up in relationship, we're not actually using our words. We are kind of expecting them to read our minds. Here's what happens. If you expect the other person to read your mind, they're going to project hard. Right. In other words, I'm going to read Angela's mind as if she's a man that grew up abused by his mom, etc. Can you see immediately the problem with me reading Angela's mind? It will be so far off from Angela's actual experiences that I will be just wrong. And then I'll start giving Angela things that she doesn't want. And she'll be resentful because, or unaware. And I'll be resentful because what I tried to help her with or give her was what I wanted, not what she wanted. But if she uses her words and tells me that, oh, and if I listen,
Yeah. And that's exactly it, but it's so true that you have to connect with yourself on a daily basis, which is why I built my app, because just sitting there, it's like, and I explain it this way. It's like we talked about the lower brain and the upper brain, right?
yeah,
And I explained it as lower level and upper level of a house. And you have the staircase and you have that box that's in the way of this, in the way. And that's your said trauma, right? So you can't go over it. You can't go around it. You can't go through it, Dora. So what do you have to do? You have to build a whole new staircase to be able to get up there. This is what people do. And this is one of the things that lady had told me, which I should have, if I had been in tune with myself,
yes.
and I would have been like, oh, that's what's going on.
Yeah.
Because anytime I would mention my coaching, I'd mention yoga, I mentioned running at one point, and how important like running was for me. Because when I'm really like foggy in my brain, running is so beneficial because it really opens my mind, right? It expands me. It gets that oxygen flowing in your body. It helps your body regulate, because you have to be able to coordinate in order to run, right? And so you're literally working your brain while you're working your body. And so I'm talking to her about that. And she was like, actually, I think I've done so much yoga and meditation and running that I'm actually good. That is every person in any
Right.
form of mental health or self-help or self-awareness, that is the number one scariest thing that we
Right.
hear,
Yep.
is I'm actually good.
There's no learning there.
Good God. Right.
Yep. Yep.
Because what you've done essentially is you've told this whole thing, this whole staircase that you've been building, right? Your brain has been working hard to build these new neural pathways.
Yep.
You've essentially told that space, I'm actually good.
Yeah.
And I don't need this anymore, right?
Or let's go back to why that is. So my mom knew everything, right? My most abusive person in my life knew it all. And one of the reasons that I would say I'm good is because when that person brought me good information, right? Because when you're 8, 10, 12, your mom has good information. There's just no way around that. As a mom, you know that. Like, you can see where your 13-year-old or 14-year-old is headed before she can, because that's just how life is. But if that is a person that you have been traumatized by, even our kids would speak to this, we don't receive it very well.
Right.
So you're coming full circle to, what if my abuser had something good to give me? Would I receive it? No, of course not. Not when I was being abused. All those walls came up. And so now if anyone says, Oh, you really think you're something. I hear my mom's voice. I don't even hear that person. I go right back. And then all those walls come up. And like you said, that block in the staircase separates the upstairs from the downstairs. My body's in fight or flight. And I'm like, bitch, you can just take a fucking walk. And I may not say that, but that's all my energy. And I'll get nothing from them.
Well,
So
and here's the thing. Here's the thing, right? How do we build that new staircase? We build it by learning, growing continuously, yoga,
yep,
mindfulness, meditation,
yep,
running, working out. We build them communicating, journaling, learning again,
yep,
learning, growing again. It
yep,
is a continuous thing. And when you have that new staircase built, and
yep.
then you're like, actually, I'm good. So I don't have to do that anymore. Where's your brain going to default back to?
Right,
Your brain defaults back to the original one
right,
because it's known it for so many
right.
years.
That's
And it's
right.
like, actually, that's my tried and true, right? Wrong. But that
Yep,
is literally, if you are not continuously
right.
working on this staircase, you're going to automatically go into that other staircase because it is ingrained into your mind for so many years, right?
This You're hitting on something big. So a lot of the people that I coach, I'm coaching to reconciliation. I'm coaching to peace and mercy and forgiveness because for most of us, we're going to be able to heal that relationship. That's the most common. For those of you who had severe trauma, like I did or my wife did, you may end up needing to stay away from the original abuser because you might just, you mentioned it, that rut. Right. That staircase was built, designed, and practiced by me and my mom for 27 years. That's a very long time. A lot of kids would have left home way before that and not developed such a rut. So, me and my mom are not a great relationship because I'll just go right back to that staircase. My wife has watched it in real time as a 40-year-old man. It's not very respect driven, right? It's a horrible place. So, for those of you who have that extreme trauma, only you can decide, can I reconcile, forgive, and rebuild something better with this person, or maybe this person will always put me on that old staircase that I do not want to be on. So
Right.
only you know your journey. Only you know where you are on that continuum.
Exactly. And it's funny that you mentioned that because I was actually so when I was reading the chapter, Kolk mentions a woman in there, right? And he talks about how when she was younger, her mom had a lot of like foster kids
Oh yeah,
and would continuously talk down to her and be like, you're not a part of this family. You don't even go here. You don't even, yeah. And so she was getting a lot of this, right? She goes on vacation when she's a little older and she ends up getting kidnapped by a guy and he continuously is like raping her in his home until she realizes I can break free from this guy and run away. And she does. And so then she's trying to get all this therapy. Her mom is just like, doesn't even care that all
sure.
this stuff happened to her. Right. And
Her
then,
mom's energy. It's the same energy. So why would she care?
right, right. And so she is trying to do all these different modalities
Mm.
that she's being taught. Right. She goes to a therapist. The therapist tells her she's picking. So she's constantly picking and
Oh, okay.
she can't stop picking, right? And she's like, I want to stop, but I can't, right? And it's because she has no sense of self. She's dissociated from her sense of self.
Yeah,
And so she doesn't even feel
yeah,
these feelings, right? Because none of it is registering in her brain. So what her therapist tells her is you have to stop doing this or
mm,
you can't see me.
mm.
Gives her an ultimatum. And
I'm-
if anybody's tried anything, right, that doesn't work.
No,
It's
it's
like
like
telling your kids you
yeah,
can't have those emotions towards this scenario. Like, no, it doesn't work.
helping. No,
Your kids will tell you, well, I guess I won't have that thing then, right? They're going to regret it later on, but they're still going to say it because they've lost that sense of self and they've lost that control of themselves. And so the only way that they think that they can gain that control is by doing the complete opposite. Plus, if you can't control it, you having somebody tell you to control it is not going to change the fact that your brain doesn't work that way.
I love
right?
that nowhere in the history of calming down has asking a woman to calm down ever calmed her down, right?
Right.
Just calm
Right.
down. Oh, that'll work. If you've ever tried it, that'll work great.
My goodness. I had one of my exes, he would do that all drove me insane. Angela, just calm down. Just take it. Hey, it's going to be okay, right? You just got to let loose about it. First of all, I'm going to punch you in your jugular. So let's get that out of the way. Let me just go ahead and let you know that.
All you girls are going to like the same schools or something, because that's exactly what my life is.
Right, right. It's our defense mechanism. You're not going to tell me how or when to feel I mean, I still do it, you know? I will sit there and if somebody's telling me like, Angela, you need to be okay with this. You need to like the whole situation with that woman.
Yep.
People were telling me you need to just be okay with it. Just ignore it. It's just her words. And I'm like, no, you don't get to tell me how I'm going to feel. You don't get to tell me when I can have emotions or not. Maybe they're irrational, maybe they're not, but my feelings are valid. And I worked my butt off to be able to see and accept that I have feelings in general. So if I have these feelings, the first thing I need to do is accept that I have these feelings. So then I can figure out why I'm having such strong emotions and feelings about this and work through it the way that I know it's best as
Yep.
a coach and an instructor and a yoga instructor and a
think we have
mindfulness
time.
meditation, right?
Yeah, we have time to do like an advanced level. We just talked about something that's another piece of emotional control or self-awareness, and that is the thermostat. So we talked about telling a woman to calm down. Okay, so we just listed something that definitely does not work. Telling a man to calm down. It does not matter if it's a woman or a man, right? If a man is really fired up, honey, just calm down. He's going to he might not hit you if his mom trained him not to do that, but he'll put his fist through a wall, right?
Right.
Many of us have seen that happen. So good for him. He didn't hit a woman, but the anger doesn't matter, right? If you're watching that, it doesn't make you feel any better that he didn't hit you. He's upset. So if you are sensing, you touched on feeling it's warm in here, right? When your emotions flared up, you now can sense that it's warm in here. That's a big step for you. The staircase is open. You got to have the feeling. If you want to shift someone else's emotion, they need to calm down and you want them to calm down. Right. Yelling from the other room, hey, turn the thermostat down. One, I'm not sure they know where their thermostat is.
Right.
You ordering them to do that is very unlikely. You're trouncing on their sense of self. So they may just go, yeah, it's fucking hot in here. I like it hot in here. Fuck off.
Right.
So
Right.
if you really want to lower the thermostat in a situation, the only thermostat you can reach is yours.
Mm-hmm.
This is where we get into some Eastern stuff that is really powerful. We don't practice it here much in the West. And that is, if I want you to calm, I must calm.
Yes.
The instant your thermostat went up and I was close to you, I felt the heat. If I let mine rise, Angels, just calm the fuck down. That is absolutely there. That is absolutely fanning the flames. It's going to make it absolutely worse because I let my thermostat rise to the heat. So the only thing I can do, you're coming at me, hook, line, and sinker. I'm going to go to my thermostat and go, wow, it got really hot in here. I'm going to leave. I'm going to let those words come in and just let them go out. I'm going to calm and ground because that's what we need.
Yes, exactly.
But telling Angela that's what she needs, you can all see how that's going to end, right?
Right.
Both thermostats are going up because now she's going to start lobbing stuff at me going, it's fucking hot in here and you should be hot too.
Literally.
I know what buttons to push.
Right. Right. You're like, all right, well, you asked for it, right?
Yeah.
You're like, you asked for it. You want to deal with this? Let's do this. Let's do this. Right.
Yeah. Yep.
You're like, I stretched in everything. You're like, let's do this. Start cracking your neck, you know? You're like, earrings coming out.
That's right. And for those of us who are more like Angela's definitely like my wife, we call them dominants. Like they're like the first answer is pissed and fight. Let's do this. For those of you who are more like me, who first answer is flight and peaceful, if we're still internally turning that thermostat up, yes, we may be more manipulative and more flow with in our response. But if inside my guts are churning, my heart is my chest is tight, I'm guaranteeing you the other person is feeling that. You're still not turning your thermostat down,
Well,
right?
and it's like we were talking about with our last one, right? We have those 3 stages, right? We're
Yes.
asking
Yes,
that
yes.
help. We don't get it, then we're doing the fight or flight, and then we start disassociating, shutting down, right? So when you're in that second stage, there's a reason it's called fight or flight, right?
Yeah.
People
We
sit
all
there
do
and they
this.
say, "Well, I don't wanna fight. I don't wanna fight. I just want peace." You're still you're still in that second response because what you are doing essentially is you're still not able to
Yep.
control
Yep.
what you're doing, and
Yep.
so you're fighting or you're flighting,
Yep.
right? And
If I really turn the thermostat down, I can look at Angela and and say, "Oh, well, maybe you have a point somewhere in all of this."
right, right,
Maybe
right.
without the bar, maybe, I'm like, okay, so what are you trying to say? Because I
Mhm.
do want to hear you. Now the thermostat in me is down, and I'll bet you anything her next statement is going to be, I don't know. Like usually she's frustrated because something's not jiving, but now we're solving. Now we're getting to a solution.
Right,
Maybe because I'm not running and just putting up a wall fills that flight in me as like, wait, I wanted to solve a problem. I'm ready to fight. You're flighting. So we're not solving anything. I'll just be here again tomorrow, like, or next week. That's
right.
cool. Frustrating.
Which is why you learn from each and every experience.
Yes. Like you did. Yes.
Right. You sit there and you learn and you grow because what happens is you through that process you realize, wow, I'm actually able to process this in a more healthy way. And
Yep.
you can validate yourself in that and tell yourself, even though you feel like you failed because you reacted, because I was pissed, and I actually I did flight. I did flight
Yeah.
instead of fight because I was like, there's kids around. We're not going to do this.
Yeah.
Right? And she's like getting in my face. And I was like, all right, here's the thing. I have to force myself to cry now. Because if I force myself to cry, you've reached that barrier where it's no longer fight, right? And then you're like, okay, flight, here we go. And I was crying and she started making fun of me for that.
Oh,
And
wow.
yeah, and was like telling her kids, she was like, remember kids. Cause I told her, I said, we need to be decent human beings. We need to teach our kids to be decent human beings. And she like looked at the kids and she looked at me and she made this like snarky face. And she was like, don't forget to be kind and loving. And I was like, good God, does she understand what she's teaching her kids just by your facial reaction? You're looking at them and showing them that you think it's disgusting to
Yeah.
be kind. And so through that, I was like, wow, I need to react better in these situations, not because I need to fight for my honor, but I need to sit there and be some sort of example. And if she's giving this other thing off, this other like personality and understanding of the importance of kindness and lack thereof, in her opinion, I need to show that I can be kind
Yeah.
even in these situations. And that's where people didn't understand why I apologized to her because I looked at it as she must have been very hurt
Yeah.
when she
Agreed.
was younger, and she must really think it's that disgusting and weak to be loving and kind. And I just had this compassion for her and for her kids because that's a very sad, lonely way to live that I used to live.
Yeah.
And when we
Feel
can
bad.
look at it from that perspective, we're like, wow, our growth is so much greater, because when you have those emotions, you're like, oh my goodness, why do I even have a business? I can't even control
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
myself. And
Yep.
you sit there and you're like, oh wait, I'm not perfect.
Yep.
That's now I remember.
The other thing, for those of you who are super emotional and experienced what Angela really neatly walked through, and that is the thermostat goes up and you're even judging yourself in that moment, going, why am I ready to knock this bitch's face off? Because you're feeling that it's hot in here and you're like, I thought I had control of this. Like, I didn't think this was going to happen anymore. If you want to step into it, it's like, yeah, but your thermostat's working,
Right.
right? If that didn't get hot ever, we'd be like, are you alive? Like, yes, eventually you're going to get to that place where very few things bother you and you can just deal with it and be the adult. But it's consoling, and it's even healthy if you stepped from trauma and drama and that staircase being broken, your thermostat's still working.
Right.
The alternative is numbness. I mean, that's like a far, far way down the staircase is when there's numbness, no response, nothing bothers you. You're super alive. Knowing your thermostat went up like that, now you just get to control it.
Right. Exactly. Exactly.
So the next time you lose your shit, people, just first
Exactly.
thing you think is, I'm alive. Now,
Yep.
what do we want to do with this hot mess?
I'm alive and I'm still kicking and breathing, and you're fucked up and it's not fucked up. Tried and true.
I have a hard deadline of 9 minutes from now, and you know that. So I want to give you whatever you need to close this show out. I'm going to shut up and stop offering any help.
So I guess I'll end with just, what was I going to say? That's what I'm going to end it.
I really like, by the way, I liked your very nerdy descriptions of the pieces of the brain and the mohawk. Like, I've never heard any of that. I've been coaching a long time, but it really resonates with how I feel. Think about mother cats picking up their kittens by the neck. Think about how many predators grab their prey by the neck, right? They're grabbing yourself.
Yep.
Isn't that interesting?
Yeah. Yeah. And it is very interesting to just be able to understand it. And that's the uniqueness of the way that I teach things, because there's all these mental health, and like one of my clients, this is what got me when I was talking to her about my membership, about the possibility of starting the membership.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, I want to know your thoughts. Right. And we talked about this before the recording. I hadn't gotten much feedback from them on all the stuff that I had taught them. Right. And I was like, okay, like, I'm just going to open up and ask them, like, I want to hear from you.
Mm-hmm.
What are you learning from this? And the one thing that really stuck with me was my client told me, Angela, I can learn this stuff anywhere. I have books left and right. The whole reason I signed up for your program was because I enjoy being in your energy. And then that hit me. I was like, sometimes we forget the power of our calling, right? And so I remember when I was doing my coaching training, and there was this moment where I had turned a client from like thinking so horribly about themselves to being like, wait, it is possible for change, and it is possible for these things. And just seeing like the kind of questions, like I dug deep because I am raw, and they even told me afterwards, they're like, wow, that was like really raw and like really triggering, but also at the same time, I just wanted to keep going because you made me feel like it was a safe space to do that. And so that really hit me when she said that. I was like, wow, I really do have a way with words, like, and that's not to say like my ego needs boosting. It's more so of some people are meant to do things in the background. Some people are meant to be these other sources, right? They do stuff in the background, which is just as important as what I do.
Yep.
But knowing what you are called to, and I've always been told like I have a loud voice and I'm very passionate.
Yeah.
And that is my superpower
Yeah.
in my training, because I can make you feel more than I can teach you.
Yeah.
I'm not going to sit there and say all these highfalutin words and be like, go figure it out. I mean, I learned about the hippocampus by saying that hippo is camping on our brains, because it takes our memories. And what happens is the hippocampus actually shrinks with PTSD. And so I was like, that's perfect. That hippo is camping on us. And what happens when you're sitting all the time and you're not working? You're going to lose it, right? If you don't use it, you lose it. And so our memories, that's how our memories with trauma are gone.
Yeah. Yeah.
And in those kind of ways, even in nursing school, I learned these fun, interactive ways of learning things. And I'm like, this is what I was meant for. This is what I was meant for. I've always been told you should be a teacher. You should be, somebody that's giving this information. I'm like, this is what I was meant to do.
Well, I hope you keep doing it, and I hope you continue to do it with me. I enjoy the partnership. As you know, my wife is a coach. She's just not, she's got so many irons in the fire and she's like a butterfly. She's floating from this to this. So I appreciate being able to work with another woman who has coaching at her core. And I just really appreciate it. So thank you for having me on again.
Thank you. And I really appreciate you coming on and giving your insight. I love our talks.
Yeah.
I hope our followers love our talks. I say ours like it's our podcast, but I hope that they love these talks, and I hope that we're able. Now we are talking about doing some live streaming where we can have some calls coming in, guys. Just bear with us on that. I will give you more information as I am aware of how to do that. So I look forward to working with Joshua more. I think that we both give good insight on both viewpoints. And thank you so much. You guys have a
Absolutely.
rest of your week. We'll see you next time.